Today we're kicking off our brand new series entitled Crystal Clear Christmas. Now, we all have different images in our mind about what Jesus looks like. The great theologian Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights once said, well, you didn't know? Does anybody know Talladega Nights? Oh yeah, and Ricky Bobby described Jesus as the sweet little baby Jesus, 6 pounds, 7 ounce. And he was corrected, and then he went on to say, I can imagine baby Jesus any way that I want to. And although that he was correct, that Jesus was a young infant child at one point in time, Jesus is much more than an infant. During the season, we all have different imaginations, don't we? Some of us think of Jesus as a big teddy bear, that he's lovable and caring and soft. And although God does comfort people, he is not stagnant and sitting still like a teddy bear is. He is actually active and moving. Some people think about Jesus as the hammer, that Jesus came to lay down the law, like some of your moms lay down the law on the kids. Well, although Jesus did come, he came to not make more rules or regulations to lay down the law, telling us what we can or cannot do. In fact, he built a pathway for us to be made right with God. You know, other people think about Jesus as, a genie in the bottle. As long as Jesus is there on the shelf, when we need him, we go pick up the genie, we rub it with our prayers, and God should automatically do whatever we want him to do. But can I tell you that although God does answer prayers, he's not waiting for you to come. He's moving on your behalf before you even pray. And you've got to understand that God is able to function at a higher level than your imagination. In fact, God can speak and move at the level in which you allow him to move through your life, but oftentimes we minimize and put a lid on what he's capable of doing because we can't comprehend it. During this series, I want us to take a look at a true biblical picture so that you can get a clear picture of who Jesus is this Christmas, that you have a crystal clear picture of Jesus so that he can function at the level of his desire, not your imagination. A lot of people think about Jesus and they think about a picture that they saw growing up on the wall. Jesus had long curly hair. I don't even know how they did that. And he's got a little nice clean beard. He looks like a hippie. It's like hippie Jesus. That's not how Jesus looked. I can almost guarantee you that's not what, he's got light, Jesus probably didn't have light skin, a nice beard, and curly hair. That's probably not the reality of what he is. But a lot of us when we think about Jesus, we see that image in our mind. But can I tell you, there is more to the character of Jesus than you even realize. There's more to his heart, and I want the character of God to come alive in your life so you may grow your faith, so that you may put your faith into action, and that you may get a better understanding of his heart and his desire to move in and through your life. Because if you grasp who he is, you'll be able to see him move in a powerful way. Our passage for this series is Isaiah 9:6, and I want us to read this out loud together as a church this morning. You ready to read it with me? Here's what it says. It says, "For a child is born to us, a son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace." Now, this is our passage for this series, and Isaiah is a book full of prophecies and warnings to the Jewish people who were groaning out of frustration because they were under captivity. In fact, Isaiah was written around 700 to 701 BC, 700 years before Christ even came to earth. So if God began to paint the picture of who Christ was going to be to the Israelite people, to the people of God, while they were in captivity 700 years before he came, it's clear that he had a desired, distinct role for the people of God. And I believe that if he had a picture, a designed, clear path for God to move in their life, I believe that God has a clear path for your life as well. That during this Christmas season, it's not about the hustle and the bustle and going crazy and the chaotic schedules that we've created on our own. It's about understanding who Jesus is, why he came, and what he's doing on this earth. Any Black Friday shoppers here? Any Black Friday shoppers? Good, we're all saved in Jesus' name. Oh, except for one. Just kidding. I don't do that stuff. I do it by the comfort of the warm fireplace on my computer. Forget all the craziness. But like, do you know how much passion and zeal these people have? Like, people do too much for a $25 crock pot. Seriously. I just need it. It's like going to change my life. No, it's not. You won't even use it. Right? People go crazy for a $250 TV, like lose their minds at 3 a.m. in Walmart fighting people, like going crazy. But my question for you is, what if we had that same kind of zeal, that same kind of passion for God as people do at Walmart at 3 a.m. fighting over a stupid crock pot? What if we, the people of God, begin to rise up and say, you know what, I will follow Jesus passionately, because if you knew his character, if you knew his heart, you would live like that. If you knew his heart towards you, if you understood the power in which he had that was available to you, you would live your life differently. And in this verse, we see 8 words that paint a picture of who Jesus is and his character. And the first one that we see is the word wonderful. Everybody say wonderful. The root word of this word of wonderful in Isaiah 9:6 is the Hebrew word pele. It means extraordinary, hard to understand, to marvel at. See, Pele is also used in Psalm 77:14, where it says, you are the God who works wonders. You have made your strength among the people. You've made your strength known among the people. You know, this means that God is a doer of miracles, a marvelous working God, a wonderful God, things that are beyond our understanding and beyond our intellect, certainly beyond our human ability. This word's also used in Judges 13:18. It says, why do you ask my name? The angel of the Lord replied, it is too wonderful for you to understand. It's too much for you to understand. That's not to be demeaning. It just means that God is greater than your understanding. You know, this is meaning that God is incomprehensible or beyond our thought process. But wonderful is a difficult word for us to grasp sometimes. It's because we use it so often, don't we? You speak to your spouse, hey babe, you're wonderful. Some of you are laughing like, why would you say such a thing? Because I tell my wife how wonderful she is. Or Morgan's grandfather, every meal is a wonderful meal. In fact, I just, more times than I remember, he would say, he had this big voice, he goes, Ramona, this meal is wonderful. It's difficult for us to grasp that God is a wonderful God, a marvelous God, because we try to assign a human value, a human dialect, a human word to an infinite God. God is beyond our understanding. God is beyond our ability. God is a God who's incomparable, incomprehensible, immeasurable. Listen, we struggle to understand this because we place human characteristics on a holy, infinite God, but God is not a man. He cannot be measured by your mind, but he does have the ability to save your soul. You know, what's amazing is we think about how the body functions, and God is a God who does a miracle every day. Every time your heart beats is a miracle. Now, if you're a doctor, be gracious for me for just a second. But as I read online, okay, I'm not claiming to be a doctor, but our heart on an average day, 100 to 125,000 beats a day without ceasing. Pushing through our body nearly 2,000 gallons of blood running through our body. It's wonderful. What makes it even more crazy is that when you begin to think about this, it runs through about 60,000 miles of branching blood vessels that connect our organs and our body parts, and God does it every day. He does it in you, and he does it in you, and he does it in you, and he does it in you. What you've got to understand is that's a lot for a fist-sized muscle, but our fist-sized muscle is in submission to a wonderful God. The breath that we have in our lungs is a gift from God. God is an incredible God. He's a wonderful God. Pray to God, it never stops. Your heart never stops. I hope it doesn't. But he's so good at this. Listen, some of you need to be reminded in this holiday season that in all the chaos that you've got going on and all the pressure that you feel to be enough, listen, you serve a God who's more than enough, who can do the miracle in your life. He's a wonderful, marvelous, powerful God. Wonderful. Can I take some pressure off of you today? This life is not your own. So this pressure that you feel, listen, go and brush your shoulders off. You guys know that song? If you don't go listen to it. But like what I'm telling you is, I'm just joking. I was a teenager at one point in time. This life is not our own. It's God's. He's given you the gift of life. The breath in your lungs is a gift. Another thing to take the pressure off you. The things that you have in your life, your house, your car, your income, they're not yours, they're God's. You are the manager, not the owner. That take a little pressure off, isn't it? So when I became the pastor in July. If you're new to the church, it was a really healthy transition. Pastor Gene went on to lead the organization that's in Colorado and Utah, overseeing 700 to 800 pastors. I applied, became the pastor in July, and man, people ask the question, well, they see all the things that are happening. Are you stressed? Are you overwhelmed? It's a lot of pressure. I'll just tell you honestly. You know what I tell people? No, I'm not. You know why? Because this is not my church, it's God's. This life that we have is not our own. This is not my church. This is God's church. You're not my people. You're God's people. And if we grasp that and we understand that, there's a lot less pressure that we carry. Because if it's God, He'll take care of it. I'm only a steward. Yes, I'm going to give my all. I'm going to pour my all. I'm going to give it everything that I got. But this is God's. And if He does it in my heart every day, if He does it in your heart every day, if He wakes us up in the morning by an alarm or naturally, man, God has given us a gift. He's a wonderful, powerful, amazing God. And a lot of times, though, we think, you know what? I don't know what to do. Listen, can I just tell you that the God that we serve is bigger than the problems that we face? The God that we serve is bigger than the problems that we face. That's why I can walk around with a little joy in my spirit. My wife always asks me when I wake up in the morning, why do you smile all the time? And I just say, I got the joy down in my heart. Walk with a little bit less pressure in your life. Man, God's able to do it all. A lot of times we just go to God and say, God, they got a really big problem here, got a situation you need to take care of, God. We tell God how big our problems are. Can we just flip it and start talking to our problems and say, you don't know how big my God is. I serve a big God who can do infinite. Come on, we got to have a little bit of faith when we speak into situations. It's a prayer of faith that we have to pray sometimes. Say, you know what? I serve a big God who's able to put blood in my body to make my heart pump and my lungs breathe. And I know that my God can make a miracle in this situation. We think about this, and God is wonderful. He's mysterious. And all of His mystery, He makes Himself known by coming to this earth in the form of a man. That's why Isaiah prophesied, said, He will be the wonderful counselor. Counselor. The second word that we're looking at today, anyone in a position of leadership is normally surrounded by a team of advisors. And they advise them on numerous issues, things that need to be dealt with, struggles, good things, celebration, all sorts of stuff. But when speaking of the coming Messiah, Jesus, Isaiah in chapter 11, verse 2, said that the Spirit of the Lord would rest upon Him, and the Spirit of counsel and of power would be upon Him. In other words, Isaiah was prophesying that there would be a king that would be full of understanding and would be able to know exactly the difference between right and wrong. Know the answers to the things that we can't comprehend. He is the great counselor. He doesn't need to be surrounded by a team of advisors. He in Himself can do it. Revelation 22:13 says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Listen, if he's the first and the last and everything in between he's got, he can do it all. In the age of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Google and Snapchat, if you don't know what that is, ask your teenagers. They'll tell you. But we're very quick to seek wisdom on situations. We post online, ask people, what do you think? Or we exert our opinion on people that aren't even asking for it a lot. You see that on Facebook a lot? People like put opinions and you're like, I didn't even ask a question. We're quick to ask people how to respond in certain situations, or people exert their opinions where they weren't even asked for. But here's my question for you is, how often are we going to get the opinion of man when we haven't even sought the counselor himself? I mean, I know some of you are walking through huge things that you cannot do on your own. In all of your searching for human counsel, no one can give counsel like God. Part of the role of a counselor is to help gain clarity, to lead people from a fuzzy, dark situation to clarity and to take the next light. And although we do need to be surrounded with advisors in this world, the great counselor himself is the first one that we should go to. Because listen, we need his wisdom, his wonderful wisdom. He brings light into our darkness and guides and directs us. But my question for you is, where are you seeking counsel from? I mean, is it from God or is it from others? Herein lies the basis of the problem. Let's dig into this for just a moment. We're often fearful of failure. Anybody ever been fearful of failure before? You're a bunch of liars. I know you are. All of us are. We're fearful of failure, so we go and lean into imperfect people's opinions. And then we struggle to trust God and have faith because we're afraid of embarrassing or being embarrassed in front of the people that we just went and sought wisdom from. This goes even deeper. Let's dig in a little bit more. Your desire to be approved by others is essentially depriving your faith in God. Because how many of you are in a situation that requires faith? Anybody in a situation that requires faith? I'm going to pray for everyone that doesn't have their hands raised, because listen, if we're going to fulfill all that God has for us in this life, we have to be living a life of faith. I don't want a safe life. Listen, we have to trust God with more than just our eternal destiny. We have to trust him with our everyday life. So if you're walking through a situation of life where you need to have faith or you need the wisdom of God, and you go to those around you and you ask them what you should do before asking the good counselor, the wonderful counselor himself, what you should do, what you end up doing is performing at the level of a human mind rather than an infinite God. So your embarrassment or your fear of failure is essentially depriving your trust and your faith in God, and then your faith in God is dried up because you're trying to please people that don't even like you. Can we not be honest? They may like you, but they don't give a rip at the end of the day. Here's what you've got to know is your desire sometimes is suffocating your faith, and you can't live a life of faith by having only the words of man. They'll tell you to seek the stability of man. But what you really need is the counsel of the Holy Spirit in your life, to be able to speak directly to the situation that you're walking through, to say, God, I need you. I'm not able to do this on my own. Father, I need your help. I need your presence. I need your guidance in my life. In order for us to be the church that God has called us to be, we have to take steps of faith. As we give in this offering in a few weeks, man, we have to take steps of faith, sacrificial giving, outside of our comfort zone. What does sacrificial giving mean? Can I just be honest with you? Morgan and I have been talking about this, and it's hard for us because it's sacrificial. Sacrificial is outside of our comfort zone. And if we're going to achieve everything that God desires to do, it's not about equal amounts. It's about equal sacrifice. What's normal to one is extraordinary to another. What's achievable to one is a step of faith for another. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy. I'm just asking you to listen and ask the great counselor, what should we do? God is good at his job. He's the wonderful counselor. He's the Prince of Peace. Listen, if you are quickly correct to picture Jesus as perfect with wisdom in all he's doing. As the worship team is coming, we have to realize that we must be patient in our pursuit of the wonderful counselor. God always displays and reveals his plan in perfect timing. Anybody ever learned that before? Perfect timing. He's not too soon. He's not too late. He's always right on time. We're also in a rush, the chaos of this Christmas season. I don't know why we do it to ourselves, but we just fill our lives so much to where we're stressed. We put this unnecessary pressure on our lives. Listen, if you understood what God does and is capable of, man, you would live your life differently. You know, if you feel this pressure and this chaos, there's only one place you can go. It's to your knees. It's a humbling position. If you're living a life of faith, you've got to start here. Every day. God, I can't do this on my own. You know, God's good enough to take care of your business for you. God's good enough to get your wayward kids home. God is good enough to fix your marriage. God's good enough to bring healing to your body. Say, God, I don't know, but I know that you do. You don't know where I start my day? I lock myself in the office and say, God, I can't do this without you. I need your wisdom. I need your grace. I need your anointing. I need your power because I'm not capable. And I know that you're walking through situations in your life. And we need some leaders to rise up and say, God, I need you. God, I need your presence. I'm not capable of doing this on my own. I can't change this on my own, but I know that you can. It's a position of humility that says, you know what, God? I surrender my life, and not only do I surrender my life, I give you the keys to the car so that you can drive. Have your way. Do what you want. You know what I believe what happens when we give God control is he takes control and he does miracles beyond your ability. He is the wonderful counselor. That's who he is. That's his character. That's his heart. God can make it go from a I don't know prayer to clarity in an instant. But we're too busy trying to function out of our own imagination when God's saying, let me have my way. Let me do my will, not your will. My will, God says. God will begin to do things and take moments that will transform you from confusion to clarity. God can change it from a lost and confused to saved and fulfilled. God can take you from my kids don't want anything to do with God to saved and filled with the Spirit of God. My God is capable of taking your broken family and putting it back together so that there may be healing and restoration. Do you believe it today? We serve a God who can, who wants to, who will do it, but we got to understand, have a clear picture of who he is, his character, his heart, his desire. And if we grasp his character and understand who he is, he'll begin to move powerfully in your life. I'm going to ask a series of questions, and if you identify with one of the questions, the response is going to be easy. Just stand to your feet. Right where you are. I'm going to ask a question. I'm not going to ask you to come forward, but I am going to ask you to stand as a sign to say, you know what, I need God's help. I I wonder if you're here this morning and you say, you know what? I need the supernatural wisdom of God. I'm in a situation that I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to lead. I don't know what decision to make. Come on, the great counselor is in session today. If that's you this morning, would you stand to your feet right where you are? Second one is this. Maybe you say, you know what? I need faith to believe, to trust God for what he has before me. I need faith to believe that God can do it. Would you stand to your feet this morning if that's you? If you're here this morning saying, you know what, I've been seeking the opinion of people before I've been seeking the opinion of God. And I need the wisdom of God. Would you stand to your feet? And lastly is this. Some of you are here this morning and you say, you know what? I know God personally, but I need God to reawaken my passion, my zeal, my desire to follow him, to do anything, to step out in faith. I need God's help today.